Hi, my name's Billy, I read books, and welcome to this video updating you on the various fantasy and science fiction series I've recently either completed, DNF'd, or have still ongoing. This is all going to be spoiler free, and in total I'm going to talk to you about 12 series. So first up, I completed the final 2 books in the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. These are really 2 additional books to the main 6-book series, and this is the origin story of one of the main characters. And the 2 books were The Way of the Argosy and The Fall of the Argosy. Now, if you've read that series, you'll know what character this is the origin story for. And in theory, I would be quite interested in finding out the origin story of this character. However, on reading the books, I wasn't that enamoured with it, really. It was just not, didn't have the same sparkle, the same sharpness and humour, and that little bit of something that Sebastian de Castell does. It was quite downbeat, really. And the first book, I wasn't really that keen on. Second book, The Fall of the Argosy, despite the name of the book, was actually a little bit better. It was more like a Sebastian de Castell book, but still not anything like what I'd read in the previous 6 books or his Greatcoat series either. So I can say I've wrapped up that series. I know the origin stories of that character now, but I wish I'd not bothered reading it, really. So I read the final book in the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers, and this was The Galaxy and the Ground Within. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat, really, because I did DNF this book at just over 50%, but having read 3.5 books in a 4-book series, I'm going to say I've completed it. And the reason I DNF'd it was because it was just so boring. Just so boring. If you've read the other books, Book 1, there is a little bit of a plot to it, and you are following some characters on a spaceship. All humanoid characters from what I recall. But there was a tiny little bit of a plot. Book 2, you were following humans on a space station, and there was no plot. It was just following them as they lived their lives. It was well written, it was nice enough, but nothing happened. Book 3, there was a plot, and I really enjoyed Book 3. Which is what made me go for Book 4 to finish it off. But unfortunately, Book 4 combines the fact that nothing happens, there's no plot, but it's all with aliens. So you can't even relate to them, or I couldn't anyway. And they're on this space station, nothing happens, and they have like interesting conversations about why they don't like cheese, or how some of them have different things in the back of the throat because of the way their species are made or have evolved, which means they pronounce words differently. Or that if they go into a spa on this space station, or like a sauna room or something like that, the machines or the devices in there for relaxation are different because aliens are made differently to other aliens. And that was it, really. And as I said, as I got about 50% in the way through it, I thought, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'll pass out on it. But like I say, I'm going to say I've completed that series, and I don't know if I will pick up another Becky Chambers book after reading that. I then completed the Threadlight series by Zach Argyle, and this is a self-published fantasy series that is really well liked in the self-published community with a lot of people who I follow on BookTube. They really like this series, but unfortunately I didn't. And it's a shame because I enjoyed Book 1. I enjoyed Book 1 to the fact that I bought Book 2 immediately and then pre-ordered Book 3. So you can probably understand how disappointed I am the fact I didn't enjoy it. Now, I'm not gonna go into it too much because this is a self-published author. I don't want to put the boot in or anything like that. But all I'll say is I'm the kind of person who questions everything in life. So if I have an opinion or a view on something, on a certain issue, and then there's a corresponding issue, and I apply that point of view to that other issue and it doesn't stack up, then I will go and change my view, or I will question it, you know what I mean? And it's the same in books. I question things, and the minute I have to start questioning things in books, it starts drawing me out. You know, along the lines of, how did you get there? Weren't you over there? Or have you got this like really bad injuries? Is no one going to talk about this? Are we just going to carry on as per normal? No one's going to mention it. Everything's fine. Okay then. It starts drawing me out of the story. And once that starts happening, you've got to work really hard to get me back in. And unfortunately, with this series, that's what happened. It's one of those where, you know, don't question it, don't ask any questions, just accept it and move on. Just carry on reading. And unfortunately, I can't. And there was one other thing that happens in book 2 and book 3 that it's just physically and biologically impossible for it to happen. And that once I read that, that was me checked out. I finished the series, but unfortunately, I think I gave the final book 2 stars. And I appear to be massively in the minority with this. It has some similarities to Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson in terms of being able to push and pull off things. It's such a shame because there was an awful lot of potential there in my opinion. But like I say, I appear to be in the minority. Lots of people seem to like this series. So I'd certainly say give it a go yourself if you've been interested. It might just be a me thing. I finished the First Law standalone series by Joe Abercrombie. So that consists of Best Served Cold, The Heroes and Red Country. And this was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I'd only got The Heroes I read prior to my break of doing BookTube. I had Red Country to finish off. And Red Country was all right. None of these books were bad. In fact, The Heroes was absolutely fantastic. I loved The Heroes. Best Served Cold, I didn't quite like the layout, the way it was structured. I'm not saying that's a criticism of the author. It's just if it's a revenge story, which it is, it's got to go in a certain way. And once that way becomes obvious, I didn't quite like how that was laid out. There's no other way for it to have been laid out. I just didn't particularly like it. So Red Country was okay. It was just okay. It was interesting. There was some good moments to it. There was some good character development from previous characters who've appeared in the series. It was just a little bit too long as well. And that was another issue with that series in general, was it was just all a little bit too long, the books. Even The Heroes. I enjoyed The Heroes, but even coming to the end of that, I was like, can we wrap this up now, please? So, yeah, all in all, I like the series. I preferred the initial trilogy to the standalones, if you're taking them as 3 books each and comparing them to each other. But yeah, it's another series done. Then the most recent series that I've completed is the Prince of Nothing series by R. Scott Baker. So that's The Darkness That Comes Before, The Warrior Prophet and The Thousandfold Thought. And this is a bleak, dark series. I gave all 3 books 4 stars. It's a tough read. I had to have a break in between each one for a good few months because I couldn't read these back to back. And thankfully, the books I had, there was a recap from the previous book to help refresh my memory, which really helped because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of names, there's a lot of places, and there's a lot to keep track of, really. Very philosophical, religious themes to it as well. But yeah, if you like dark fantasy, then Prince of Nothing will certainly scratch that itch for you. Right, so in terms of the one series that I've DNF'd, before I get to that, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider giving the video a Billy Big Thumb. Give it a thumbs up, a like, it really helps the channel out. So the book series that I've DNF'd was Crown of Stars by Kate Elliott. This was a 7-book fantasy series, which I kind of felt like it was like reading Robin Hobb, but just not to her standard. And I am not saying that in a negative way, because Robin Hobb is like at the cream of the crop. Kate Elliott is a good writer. She is a really good writer. It was just too much religious stuff going on, too slow, and then not enough payoff for the slowness, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't interesting enough. If it was like slice of life stuff and the characters were living the life, it wasn't quite interesting enough. I wasn't invested enough with the characters to enjoy it. There wasn't enough payoff at the end for the slow build up, as in like what happens at the end of the books, or certainly at the end of the second book, which was Prince of Dogs, which is where I've checked out. Nothing surprising happened. I'd slogged through, I don't know, was it best part of 600 pages of very slow story, and then I finished it and there was nothing really surprising at the end of it. And I thought, you know what, there's another 5 books in this series. It's a 7-book series. I thought, I can't commit to another 5 books of this. I've just got other things I'd rather read. So yeah, it's The Crown of Stars. Was it The Crown of Stars? Was that the series? What was the first book called? Can't remember what the first book was called. King's Dragon, that's what it was called. King's Dragon was alright, it set quite a bit up, but then The Prince of Dogs, it was okay. But like I say, I can't justify to myself slogging through a book of that size that's so slow, knowing there's another 5 books to go if I'm not enjoying it. So I may as well just tap out now. So that takes us on to the series I've got ongoing currently, which is 6 series ongoing. And the first one is Cradle by WIGHT, and I'm up to book 6. I can't remember what book 6 is. I will put it here. But the fact I can't remember what that book is suggests to you is that I'm not all that keen on this series. No, keen's not the word. I don't mind it. It's okay. It's progression fantasy. I'd never read progression fantasy before. And as I'm reading it, it's not the fact that I don't like progression fantasy. There's just something about this, and I don't know what it is, that's just not quite clicking with me. And I've been thinking, I need to read a different type of progression fantasy. And I have, and I will talk about that in a bit, because it's great. But yeah, Cradle, I think is it 10 books? Or is it going to be 12? I can't remember. And I'm up to book 6. And the books aren't massively long. You can get through them quite quickly. And that's the reason why I'm going to carry on with it. Everyone tells me, all the people who love this, they just can't stop talking about it. People love it. I'm okay with it. And I've been using it as a bit of a palate cleanser. And I will continue using it as a palate cleanser, I think, because the books aren't too long. But that's ongoing. I'm up to book 6, and not quite sure when I'll get around to it. I've got to do it sooner rather than later, so I don't forget what's going on, though. That's the thing. I have 1 book left in the Articles of Faith duology by David Ragg, and that's called The Righteous. This is sometimes, you may well have heard of the first book, which is called The Black Orcs. In fact, I've done a spoiler-free review for that, which I will link down in the description below. And I loved The Black Orcs. I think I only gave it 3.5 out of 5. But that doesn't really convey how much fun I had with that book. And that's what that was. It was just fun. It had me snorting like coffee out my nose. I was laughing that much at some of the things that I said in it. And so I need to get to the second book. The only thing that's kind of stopping me is I'm thinking the Black Orcs itself, I thought might have been just a standalone, just a one-off book. It's great. Great laugh, great fun, brilliant. So I don't know if he can replicate everything for the second book and move it on sufficiently. I hope he can, because if he does, if David Ragg does, then I am going to have a hoot and a blast with that second book. And the covers as well, as you can see, the covers there are just gorgeous as well. Brilliant covers, and I just enjoy looking at them. The Culture series by Iain M Banks. I've only read one of these. I read Use of Weapons, and that was a bizarre book, which by the end of it, I was a bit blown away with, in all honesty. But I felt that, because I've been told you can pick these books up in any order, it's a series about the culture, this alien race. It's not a continuing story as such. You can go into it anywhere. So that's why I picked that book up. I think that's either book 3 or book 4 technically. But I kind of felt like I was missing something. Like there was like information maybe that I needed that wasn't making it clear exactly who was who or what was going on or why. So what I need to do is what I'm thinking I'm going to do is going to go to book 1, which is called Consider Fleabas. I think that's how it's pronounced. And try that. That'll be my second book in the Culture series. And hopefully that might provide me with the little bit of grounding maybe that I could have needed before I'd have read Use of Weapons. But yeah, my word, Iain M Banks can write. He can write. And it made it clear to me as to why that series is loved so much by the science fiction community. And I think I did a spoiler-free review for that as well, which if I did, I will link it down below. In one of my previous videos, I picked a book at random from a number of books I wanted to get to, picked them out at random, and it was the Ketty J series by Chris Wooding. Book 1 was Retribution Falls. I'd been looking forward to this. I'd heard decent things about this. It didn't appear to be a series that was massive or really, really well known. It's not from the people who I follow anyway. And it was okay. It had some good points. It was fast paced. It was action packed. But yeah, it just didn't quite just do that extra little bit that I was maybe hoping for. Felt a little bit, I don't know a polite way of saying it. I wanted it to be a little bit more brutal, might be the best way of saying it. But that's just because that's the kind of stuff I enjoy reading more than anything. But I need to get to the second book in the series to carry on. It's been a while since I read the first one. But yeah, it was good, it was fun, it was action-packed, fast-paced. I mean, why would you not want to carry on reading a book that you can absolutely have a blast reading through? Speaking of books that I absolutely had a blast reading through, I read Caliban's War, Book 2 of The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. And I was really, really pleased with that book because I didn't enjoy Leviathan Wakes that much, which was Book 1. I'd found Leviathan Wakes was just, started off good, then went a bit daft, settled down a bit, and then was all right towards the end. Whereas Caliban's War was just solid all the way through. It had me interested, hooked all the way through. The reasonably big books as well, I think maybe 500 to 600 pages, but it doesn't feel like you're reading a book of that size. And yeah, I had a blast reading it. So Book 3, I think, is that Abaddon's Gate, maybe? If it's not, I'll put Book 3 there. Yeah, definitely going to continue with this series. I understand now why everyone likes it so much. I tried watching the TV series of it for Book 1 and I didn't like that either. So I think Book 1 just wasn't maybe for me. I think I've just got some issues with Book 1, but Book 2, Caliban's War, was great. So that now takes me on to the other progression fantasy series that I spoke about before that is absolutely great. And that is The Wandering Inn by Pirate Harbour. Just about, by the time you're watching this, I was just about to finish Book 1. Book 1 is about 1,200 pages long. It's a progression fantasy. I believe it's lit RPG, so it's like a book format of a video game, and it's from a web serial. Now, that would normally send me running to the hills saying, no, keep it away from me, please, that sounds dreadful. But it's not. I am having an absolute blast with this. It's fantastic. I'm going to carry on with it. I mean, I think that Book 1, like I said, I've just finished, is 1,200 pages long. I think Book 2 is twice as big. So this series is going to take some time to get through. I think there's 9 books out at the minute. And currently, the series, from what I'm aware of, is twice the size of The Wheel of Time. And it's still being written. So if I'm still doing this in about 4 years' time, and I do another update on the ongoing series, expect me to be talking about The Wandering Inn, because I think it's going to take a long time to read, to catch up with. So yeah, that's it. That's all the book series that I've got ongoing, recently completed, and unfortunately have DNF'd. So I hope you like that. If you've read any of those, let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.